And I'm Stick.
Today we're going to talk about one of the best investments you can make in the kitchen.
A crock pot.
Now, a crock pot's great because you can just set it and forget it.
And there's so many easy things to make in it. Like soups, chilies, stews, you can even make pork chops and barbecue ribs.
Now, I would say we use the crock pot about a quarter of our meals every week. So through these videos, we hope to show you how easy it truly is to use.
Hi, I'm Alan.
And I'm Stick.
And I'm Chris.
And today we're going to talk about how to make a beef stew in a crock pot.
Now, as you can see, the beef is frozen, but the good thing about using a crock pot is not only can you just set it and forget it, but you can also put frozen things into it, and by the time it's cooked after 7 or 8 hours, it'll all be unthawed and ready.
No, you want it thawed.
Oh, that's right. It'll be thawed and cooked.
How much beef is that?
It's about 1.5 pounds.
Yeah, 1.5 pounds. And you can see we're putting some collagen beef broth. And you basically just want to pour enough of it so that the meat's completely covered. And if you want, you could put some water instead of the beef broth, but then the flavor will just be a little less.
So we used about 3 cans of beef broth. As you can see, it just barely makes it to the top of the meat. And you also want to make sure all the vegetables that you put in after will be submerged under the water, under the broth, so that they don't spoil.
Yeah, and the most critical is for the potatoes. If you don't have those submerged, they brown very quickly, and it's a little gross.
Which is why we put them in first and on the bottom.
They also need the most heat to cook of all the vegetables. So it's good for them to be at the bottom.
I believe we used Idaho potatoes in this recipe, which were nice because you don't need to peel these particular potatoes, although they should be washed and cleaned very thoroughly before you use them in the crock pot.
Yeah, you can see because these potatoes have a very light skin, and those type of potatoes you can usually eat without peeling. The type that have the very dark brown skin are the ones that you usually peel.
Red potatoes would also be nice in this.
Yeah. Now, as I'm watching this, you can see the way Stick is putting some of these potatoes in. I would actually recommend not doing that for 2 reasons. One, you're less likely to accidentally, you see how he's sliding the blade into his hand?
That's a perfectly reasonable way of putting them in. No,
this is exactly what not to do.
Maybe if I had more space and the director gave me more room to do my cutting.
Well, no, let me explain. First of all, it's slightly dangerous, but more importantly, perhaps, it can damage the blade. So you're a lot better off just flipping it upside down and using the back of the blade.
Fine.
There's really no advantage to going blade front.
Other than you don't have to flip it around.
Keep a first aid kit handy when cooking with Stick.
Alright, so as you can see, we're finishing cutting the potatoes, and we're going to make sure that all of them are submerged underneath the broth, and then we'll continue to add additional vegetables.
Now, with most things we cook, we don't use a particular recipe. A lot of it is just experience and trial and error. So you'll see as we go about this soup, if you don't like onions as much or you like more potatoes, you should feel free to change it a little bit and try different things and see how it comes out.
Yeah. That's what's great about soups and stews is there's really no set recipe. As long as you put the right amount of spices in, you can really add whatever vegetables you'd like. Obviously, potatoes, carrots, and onions are pretty standard for soups.
Okay. Now, we kind of fast-forwarded through the onions. We basically cut up 1 full large Vidalia onion and just cut it into small pieces. When we do a close-up of the crock pot, you'll be able to see about how large we cut them.
And you want to cut out the tough, yellowish root sort of part of the onion, as you saw Stick do. He separated that and then threw it out.
And unlike the potatoes, you do want to take the skin off of the carrots.
Yes. So you can get a good feel for the size. And then this is just a frozen mixed vegetable medley that we found in our freezer, just to add a little more variety. And now
this recipe is good for getting rid of extra vegetables you don't really know what to do with.
Definitely.
So what we did there was we put the vegetables in, and then on top of that, it was a small can, a 12-ounce can, no, 8-ounce can of tomato paste, and then one 8-ounce can of water. And what we're doing here is just pushing it all into the broth and making sure it's all kind of uniform and stirred.
Yep. Now that tomato paste serves two purposes. It gives it a nice flavor, and the acid in the tomatoes helps to break down the meat. And with ground beef, it's not too much of an advantage, but if you ever make this with stew meat, it will really help make the meat very nice and tender.
It helps break up the fat.
So what we do with the crock pot is we make it the night before. Any soups or stews or chilies that we're making, we prepare the night before, as you can see we just did, and then we put all the spices into a little Tupperware container and put that right into the crock pot so we don't forget it. And then in the morning, all we have to do is set the crock pot, put the spices in, and forget about it until dinner time.
And that's so the spices don't get concentrated on whatever was on the top layer.
Right. So you see here we got, I believe that's a quarter teaspoon. So we put a half teaspoon of garlic and 2 bay leaves. And now this is seasoned salt, which is a very common type of seasoning. It's just mainly paprika and garlic powder with some additional spices, celery salt, and other salts inside it. You can find it at most grocery stores, or if you want to substitute any other type of spice, maybe red pepper or chili, just to add different flavors to the soup. And so this is a quarter teaspoon of salt, and I believe we're going to put 2 of those in. And again, you can do some, just a quarter. You can, mix it up with the seasoning, depending on what you like.
Yep, and you can add additional salt or garlic, however you feel is necessary. You don't necessarily need to follow the amount that we put in.
And if you want to cut the amount of salt, you could also start out with low-sodium beef broth.
So go ahead.
Go ahead.
We just put it in the refrigerator for the night, and then in the morning, it's ready to go. All you have to do is put it into the crock pot, set it on low for about 7 to 8 hours, and it's nice and warm when you're ready to eat it.
Yep, so this is the next morning, and I've just taken it out of the refrigerator. And this is about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, and we ate at 6, and it was very well done. So you see I'm pouring in the spices, and hopefully, yep, there we go, mix it up a bit to make sure that the flavor kind of mixes in.
And how many servings would you say this made?
This made 2 dinners and a lunch, and then a little left over even.
Approximately 8 servings. 8 bowls. And it's also very important when you're cooking in a crock pot to keep it closed the entire time, the entire process it's cooking. A lot of people tend to open it to smell it or check on it, but that lets a lot of heat come out, and since it's a slow cooker, the heat is added slowly. So you really want to keep all the heat in there.
And you don't want to lose any moisture.
All right. Now, to directly oppose what Stick said, the one exception to that is when you have frozen meat, towards the end, you are going to want to put a spoon in there and break up the meat and make sure the inside isn't still frozen, and give it a good turning. And I believe Stick actually did that earlier, and then I came around to do a final check right before we ate. And you can see that this meal is $13 total, and after we split it into all the meals, it's only $2.50 per meal. All right, well, thank you. This was episode 2. We hope to see you next time.
Bon appetit.